If you want to progress in life, go to the next level. Usually, it requires you to know something that your current self doesn't know. For instance, if you want to get a higher paid job, then you need to know some new skills. If you want to start a business, then you need to learn marketing, sales, etc. And if after this next level, you want to keep going higher and higher, then learn something very quickly becomes a super skill that every one of us should develop. And when I decided to go to the next level for the first time, for me, the skill was English. And I basically learned it from zero to being able to speak fluently in 1 year. And today, I just want to show you my daily routine, how I learn English every day. And since then, I use the same principles if I ever want to learn something new. So in this video, I will share with you those simple principles, and you will be able to learn everything you want very, very quickly. By the way, if you're new here, then welcome to my channel. My name is Nikita, and I see life as a game, and on this channel, we'll talk about how to play it. So, with this being said, let's roll. The first thing that I want to talk about, guys, is the mindset shift that you need to make. The mindset shift that you do not need to become an expert if you want to learn something. Because the first thing that a lot of people face is when you want to start learning something, they think that they need to become an expert in it. And we all know this quote that you need to spend 10,000 hours if you really want to become good at something. And that's why people get discouraged and they never start. However, you do not need to become an expert in 99% of the things. So, let me explain. For instance, you just turned 18 and now you want to know how to drive a car. Look, you can get your driver license, maybe in 3 months. And after 3 months, you're able to drive. You're not a professional racer and you will never be able to win a race, but you know how to drive. That's enough for you. The same thing with cooking. For instance, I know how to cook. However, my skills definitely are not enough to work in a restaurant. But those skills are enough for me and I'm able to cook my food and eat for functioning. And the same mindset you have to apply basically to 99% of things that you need to learn. That you do not need to become an expert in a thing because usually there's no reason for that. You just need to learn enough. So if you want to learn something, the first thing that you need to do, you need to break down your skill into smaller parts. So look, usually a complex skill that you're trying to learn is a combination of smaller things. For instance, if you're learning second language, then it will be grammar, reading, vocabulary, writing, speaking, listening, etc. This will give you a way better understanding on what to focus on. Because when people are trying to learn something, they're focusing on, one set of skills instead of learning the whole. And all of those small parts, they work together in a system. And if some of those parts is lacking, overall, your level of the skill is smaller. Again, language learning is an example. If you know words, but you do not know grammar, you will not be able to construct sentences. If you know grammar and you know words, but your listening skills are very bad, you will not be able to understand what people tell you. If you have listening skills, you know vocabulary, you know grammar, you know writing, but your speaking skills are bad, you will not be able to talk to people. And that's actually very common. A lot of people who study the second language, they know how to write, they know how to read, they know how to they know words, they know grammar. However, they're not able to express themselves. And the problem is that they were not practicing this specific component of their complex skill. So that's why you need to break down your skill into lots of smaller parts in order to get a holistic approach and study all of those things. And then if you realize that in one of those elements, you're actually pretty bad, then you can actually start working on it specifically and overall, you'll improve. Now, you broke down your skill into the smallest part. What's next? The next thing is that you need to pick a very good source. Look, I know, right now you're thinking, well, that's the obvious advice. But I wouldn't tell you that if this was not important. Because the thing is that a lot of people pick a very bad source in the first place, and that's why their learning journey is actually way more complicated. And look, here's an example. A YouTube channel, that teaches English called Marina Magilko. She's not a native speaker, however, she teaches English and she has millions of subscribers on YouTube and all of her videos get a lot of views. And here's the problem, that just because she's not a native English speaker, she makes mistakes in her videos and she teaches people wrong information.
There are two ways to say this correctly. Divorce from Andy, divorce Andy.
It's not correct to say she divorced from Andy. If you want to use this word as a verb, the preposition from is not necessary.
And I know that she doesn't really want to give bad advice, right? But however, it is what it is. But look, just because those people, they do not know the language, they are not able to tell if this information is correct or not. And guess what? In other areas, the same thing, right? If people are listening to financial advice, this financial advice might be bad, but just because you're not an expert in it, you will not be able to tell if this advice is good or bad. And nowadays, this is very easy to stumble upon a bad advice because Right now, everyone makes content and everyone wants to be successful, everyone wants to be a millionaire, and that's why it's so easy to stumble upon incorrect information. So before you actually jump into learning something, do a little bit of a research and choose the source that you really can trust. The second thing that I highly recommend is that use a holistic approach to learning and not to study partially, because this was my experience when I first decided to learn Photoshop and After Effects. This is a software for video effects. Okay, I was just watching tutorials on YouTube, and usually tutorials on YouTube, they're not really systematic. It's like reading a book not from the first chapter to the last. It's like you're reading chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 12, chapter 4, and so on and so forth. Yes, you're learning, but your knowledge is not really structured. And that's why you might have a very, very big gaps in knowledge. So that's why instead of watching random videos on YouTube, if you really want to learn something holistically, I would recommend to pick a good source. And the last thing about the source is that you need to pick a source that you really like. Because if you don't really enjoy the source, it will be way harder for you to learn it. So there's like lots of examples that people, decide to learn something and then they just make themselves to watch those boring lectures. And again, speaking from my personal experience, I had to improve my listening skills. I could watch some boring lectures, some John told Jane, something like that. But instead I actually, did a little bit more creative. I remember that when I was a kid, I always liked watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Jackie Chan Adventures. So what I did, I just found them online and just started watching those videos in English, basically improving my listening skills. And because of that, I was not really making myself watching it. I was really enjoying it. It was really fun. So I had maybe 1 or 2 hours a day of listening practice without any problem. And this was because I found a very good source that I really like. Now, once you broke down your skill into the smallest part and you have a good source, the next thing is basically just to start studying and having a schedule. Because here's the problem. In the Eisenhower matrix, this is the matrix for tasks, learning is in the quadrant that is important but not urgent. And actually, all of the things that are important in our lives are important but not urgent. Those are the things that you definitely need to do. However, it doesn't really mean that you need to do them today. You can do them in a week, or maybe a little bit later. And just because those things are not urgent, usually we delay doing them. We delay them for a week, for a month, for 6 months, and then the year goes by and we haven't even started. And just because learning is not urgent, there always will be something that is more urgent than that. And in order to protect yourself from that, in order to protect yourself from those urgent things that will be happening, you need to have a schedule and stick to it. And that's why I highly recommend for you to open your calendar, find time that you can dedicate to learning, book it, and when the time comes, you just go sit and start studying. Overall, I would recommend to study at least 3 hours a week. Because if you study something for 1 hour a week, yes, you're moving, but very, very slowly. When I was learning English, I was studying for 8 hours a day. Well, that's why I learned in 1 year.
So right now currently is 1 a.m. and I'm still learning some modal verbs because, I guess I've just underestimated how much time I need to master all of these stuff.
But you don't have to go that extreme, okay? Chill. And now you have a schedule and you start studying. And during studying, sooner or later, you'll make a mistake. Learning nothing from those mistakes is a mistake. If you're self-studying, then this is basically just a matter of time when you make a mistake. But the problem is that just because you're self-taught, there's a very big chance that you will not notice this mistake. And just because you haven't noticed this mistake, you'll be making the same mistake again and again and again and not progressing. And that's why you need to find somebody who will be able to correct you. This can be a teacher or maybe some person who knows this topic better than you. If you do not know those people offline, then you can find somebody online. If you don't want to pay, then you can find help on free resources. For instance, on Reddit, maybe Quora, or maybe find a community on Discord. When I was learning English, I actually joined a group on Discord that basically was dedicated to English learning. And if I had some grammar question, I was asking native speakers there and they were giving me help. And more often you're getting feedback, more time you're getting corrected, more quickly you'll be improving. So this is it for today. I hope it was useful for you. If so, then hit the like and subscribe to my channel so you'll not miss any future videos that I'll be uploading. My name is Nikita, and I'll see you next time. Успехов!